Hi, Caleb with Brownells. I'm joined again with Adam of Spiritus Systems, and Adam's going to take us through some of the color options and camo patterns that they have available.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we try to offer as many useful patterns as we can. And we get asked a lot of questions of, hey, why do you not offer this pattern, or how about this pattern? And, you know, obviously camouflage has been a thing for a really long time, and there's a ton of patterns out there, a ton of cool patterns. Some of them don't work at all, like Desert Night Camo is a popular one right now. It was the DCU blend. That camouflage was actually a failed pattern, and it doesn't work. So we get asked that question, like, why don't you carry these other patterns? And we try to carry as many patterns that we can that are sustainable and patterns that actually work to provide camouflage. So we have a bunch of different ones up here. A lot of them are MultiCam variations. The next thing we get is what color should I get, right? Which is a very subjective question. We could tell you to buy different camouflages for different reasons, but if you only, the question then turns into, if I can only buy one camo, if I can only get one, and again, subjective, right? It really depends on where you live. Out here in Iowa, for me personally, this is just an example, but I think that I would probably go with a MultiCam Arid. This region, right? You have a lot of vegetation that is dead for a lot of the year, and even when it's not dead, there's a lot of low-lying undergrowth that is still kind of this tan color palette.
Right.
So, it would blend in very good here, but it would not be the same color that I would recommend if you lived in South Florida.
Sure.
Right. So you really have to ask yourself, like, what environment are you trying to blend in with? And the environment may not be an outdoor environment. So we have some solid colors too, wolf gray being one for an urban environment. That material was actually developed, a very specific color palette was chosen to test, and that color came out on top as a very good color for urban environments around the world, globally. So a great pattern for blending in kind of an urban environment. Same with Ranger Green. Ranger Green works really well in a multitude of environments, urban transitional environments. You could go out in the woods with it, but also step into town and not seem completely out of place with that material. And considerations for camouflage, they're not just there to make you blend in, they're also there to kind of fool the mind, right? An irregular pattern, and I'll pick up this MultiCam one here. An irregular pattern like this serves two purposes. It has a color tone or palette that helps it blend in with natural vegetation or surroundings, but it also creates an irregular shape. Target indicators it's a term we use in the military to describe things that make you a target, right? Or enable you to see a target. And one of those is shape. So the obvious one is always color. Everybody always says, oh, like MultiCam black, does that work really well at night? It sure does, because it's dark. But it also works better than, let's say, a jet black like this, which is just a solid black, because this breaks up your shape, your outline. That irregular patterning at a distance, it actually just fools your eye into, your eye's trying to see things very sharp, and then it kind of turns you into a blob. Whereas this, at night, if a guy is wearing all black, he's actually darker than the night, right? It's like, because there's light variation there. If you're seeing him at all, it's because there's some kind of light.
Sure.
And so if he's wearing all of this, you'll just see a silhouette of, a human, which is actually, as humans, we are, in our biology, we are coded to see humans, right? So like as danger. MultiCam black is probably our most contested pattern, also Fred's favorite pattern, and this pattern is contested because people do not think black is a viable option for camouflage. And normally I would tend to agree. I would normally tend to agree. Again, we talked about black in terms of blending in. I don't think it's the best option out there, certainly not with the choices we have on the table. But MultiCam black, I have seen work very well in maritime, especially in night operations. And there's also times where we wear camouflage to blend in with maybe a host nation force that is using black as their primary color. or military units that around the world that are using black as their primary color. When U.S. soldiers go and augment them, it's good to look the same but a little bit different so that we can identify each other on the battlefield.
Right.
Is another instance where that works really well. Surprisingly enough, Arid works really well at night as well, and that's because it has a pink hue to it. You can almost, I'm not sure if you can see it, but especially if you look in this Velcro, you can see in these kind of light areas, there's almost a pink in there. If you're interested in doing some research on camouflage, you can actually look back to the Desert Patrol units from the British Army in World War II or the SAS. They actually had Land Rovers and Jeeps that they painted pink, and they called them Pinkies, right? The Pink Panther, that whole thing. They painted it pink because in transitional light, your eye has a really hard time understanding the color pink. So at night, these pink trucks are driving around, you think that would stand out, but it actually blends in really well. So Arid works really well at night too. And then Tropic, our kind of last multicam color. Well, there's also Alpine, which we don't have represented here. We currently don't make any products really in it anymore. We have in the past, and we maybe will again in the future. But Tropic is probably the most highly contrasted color of the group, and it works very, very well in tropical environments, where there's a lot of saturated green. But I would not recommend it in like your, further up north in the country in the woods, because it is just so saturated that it looks out of place. There's a lot of actual brown in the forest that, you get down south in Florida, really, really green, hyper green almost. You can see this hat is just so green in comparison to, this multicam. If you want to pick that one up and put them side by side, this is, you can just see how saturated those green tones are. Right. And that does blend in with a tropical environment. Whereas this actually will stand out in a tropical environment. It just won't be saturated enough. But it makes it very particular. So if you had to ask me what my vote was for color, personally, I'm picking multicam Arid most of the time. Okay. It just is a for me personally. I think it is the best transitional camouflage pattern to come out in a long time. And if I'm picking a solid color, personally, I'm going to go with Ranger Green. Okay. Me personally. Right. I think it's a good blend between a solid color that works in an urban environment or a suburban environment, but also something that I could wear out into the woods and still have a little bit of camouflage property too. Okay. Yeah. Excellent. And that's a ton of great information there. I think that'll help a lot of our viewers and customers with their color selection. Sure. As they kind of move more deeper into this world and get a better understanding of all of it. Absolutely. So Adam, I appreciate you coming out. And for those of you out there, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them down below. If you have a favorite color or camo pattern, be sure to let us know why you like that so much in the comments below. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.